Oh, I didn't even check my mic. 1 2 1 2. All right, it should be good. I might have to turn it up. No, I should leave it that way. There's something in my headphone though. Sorry, guys. All right. Welcome to week 6 of Anatomy and Physiology BIO201 at Arizona Western College. Gonna go through some announcements, review. We've got a big exam coming up here regarding chapters 4 and 5. And got some slides I want to review with you guys. Make sure you guys have a good idea of A, the format, B, the material that you're going to see as well. So we're going to take a look at that here in this announcements and review as well. So let's just take a look here at your canvas. And again, for particularly, excuse me, let me give you the student view here, throw it up on the screen. All right, so here we have right there on the front page, we'll have some updated announcements. We'll hop into modules where the class really lives. Again, we're looking at chapters 4, chapter 5. In our online class, we've gone through tissues and histology, as well as the grand rounds, the integumentary system. What did I want to say here? So what are the kind of topics that we're going to start to see here? The exam is going to open for this class here on the 25th, I think it is. Excuse me, not the 25th, the 19th actually. So I'm going to start that and get that open there. And that'll be due later in the week for that online class. But I want to go over the format here real fast as to what you guys will be seeing on this exam, because it's going to be a little bit different here. So this the exam here is, again, as we mentioned, is going to go over chapters 4 and 5. I'm going to jot these notes in there as we go. And this time it's going to be 2 parts. So you're going to have 2 parts to the exam. We'll have what's like the traditional multiple choice questions, and then you're going to have a separate, excuse me, a separate exam just over the pictures. So if I find my PowerPoint, I can type on it. There we go. So the first part is, I think it's going to be 60 questions. I'll double check that real fast. Okay, I'm pulling it up right now and I'm reviewing it. Maybe here we go. So the first part, part 1, is multiple choice, multiple answer questions. There will be 60. I got 60. That was right. 60 questions. The value of the points will go down just a little bit here. The value of the points is going to go to 1.25. I don't know why that did, why it's doing that. Okay, 1.25, which comes out to the first part is going to be worth 75 points. There we go. That's why it keeps going blank. There we go. keeps going blank, I'm going to get rid of this. Yeah, I got to fix something here. There you go. Okay. And again, that's going to be more of the traditional questions that you would see, multiple choice, multiple answer type questions. And so, yeah, does that come out to right points? Yes. So 60 points, 1.25. And again, we're looking at, again, chapters 4, which is the chapter 4, which is tissues and histology, and chapter 5, which is the integumentary system. And so you'll get 30 questions from each chapter, for each chapter. I can put that here, right? So 30 questions from chapter 4, 30 questions from chapter 5. It's going to come out to 1.25 points each. Comes out to 70 points for part 1. I should say. Part 2 is going to be what we might call the practical component of it. So the practical is going to be pictures associated with different pictures of different structures. And again, we'll be talking about, we'll call it the practical questions. And of those, I think there is going to be 50. Yeah, there's going to be about 40 or 50 of those questions. Oh, I don't like this. And so you'll be completing those questions separately. You'll actually have a separate opportunity to complete this. So the first portion will be simply the or you can take it in whatever order that you want. But the first portion would be multiple choice, multiple answer questions. So there's about 60 of those. They come out 30 per chapter, chapters 4 and 5, histology and tissues, and that's 75 points. A good 2/3 or something of the test there is the multiple choice multiple answer questions. The practical component will be 40 to 50 questions. The answers will be required to be short answers, right? Meaning that you will have to type in the answer of what you see in the picture. So in those short answers, you'll see that. And they are, that's what I'm saying. It'll come out to a total of 50 points for that component. So it'll be somewhere between 1.25 and 1.25 and 1 point for each test. Excuse me, I'm going to drink of water real fast. All right. So we're looking at this exam, chapters 4 and 5, is just 2 parts. And so again, we can take a look at some of the components that are going to be on that. So remember that we talked about histology, and histology is the study of tissues. And this is the list of tissues that you should be able to at least identify on a picture. So I can take you to a quick website here. One of my preferences might be, we'll kind of split the screen here. Where's that PowerPoint? Right here. We won't split the screen. We'll take it to histology guide. No, let's go to digital histology. So the website I picked today was Digital Histology. And so if you go into epithelium, we'll talk about the lining and covering primarily. There is simple, and so you can identify some simple squamous epithelium. And again, that is on our list. Throw that down there. That's our list, right, of simple squamous epithelium. And that would be on there. We can come back to my page. The next one would be simple cuboidal epithelium. So even in the same slide, you can see a contrast of simple cuboidal epithelium, and you start to get familiar with the different types of tissue. And so this is what you would put if you saw a picture of tissue here. Excuse me, where is it? A lot of windows I'm managing. There it is. So you see this here, like you would identify this. It would say what type of cells or what type of tissue is this. And you would say this is simple cuboidal epithelium. Where it is, it's got nice round spherical nuclei. You can see there's a lumen component in the middle there. I don't know if you can see my mouse. Is my mouse enabled? I don't know if you can even see it. No, you probably can't see that. I'm floating my mouse around there. So let me get some type of writing tool for you here. There we go. So there it is. All right, there's a simple cuboidal epithelium right there. It's got a nice round spherical nuclei. It's got the nice kind of cube-like shaped versus, and you can see it here, these are squamous, simple squamous epithelium. And so I'll clear this off right quick, because then you could see that there's the squamous cells, squamous squamous cells, and so even these the glomerulus here, this component that is here in the middle is good enough. This structure here is simple squamous epithelium. But primarily, take a look at these ones here. You can see that one there, you can see that one there, and you can see simple cuboidal epithelium as well in this picture. So you get familiar with kind of what those tissues look like, and particularly in the practical, you see a picture like this, you type in simple squamous epithelium. Okay, the next one is simple cuboidal. We took a look at that, and now simple and or pseudostratified, they look so similar that either one of those would be acceptable in my book. So simple columnar epithelium or pseudostratified columnar epithelium are similar, and so I would, if you put either one on the practical when you see a picture that might look like I don't know, let's see here, there's some more squamous cells, right? There's some more simple squamous epithelium. Simple squamous epithelium. We're still moving down the simple squamous. There's some cuboidal epithelium. Some, again, cuboidal epithelium, excuse me, simple cuboidal epithelium. So use all of those terms there for correct answers. And again, we're looking at cuboidal, but I wanted to identify that columnar or pseudo-columnar. This is simple columnar, but it could be identified as pseudo-stratified because you can see how the nuclei are a little bit misaligned or maybe even staggered. They give the appearance of stratification, like there's a couple of cells layers deep there, and so that's what you're getting familiar with here as we take a look on that. And stratified squamous epithelium, hopefully you'll be able to identify that, whether it is skin, like we see in chapter 5, or it is the inner mouth, like the oral cavity. So non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium looks a little bit different, but they both have those same characteristics of maybe some cuboidal cells at the bottom, or on the deeper component towards the base, and more squamous cells towards the apical surface, or towards it more superficially. As well, connective tissue, right? Like there's a big conglomerate of connective tissue that you should be familiar with. So again, I'd encourage you to just take a look at the website here. Where do I put it? Yeah, same website. Go from main menu. Now we're into the connective tissue group. There's connective tissue proper. So there's loose, there's dense irregular, dense regular connective tissue. There's hyaline cartilage, elastic cartilage, and fibrocartilage. You should be able to identify the differences between, maybe a little bit more zoomed in. But hyaline cartilage, and again, hyaline cartilage. Why? Because it's got a little bit more of a glassy appearance to it. Inside here, we have these chondrocytes, right? So there's chondrocytes, and those are the cells that are associated with them. Hyaline cartilage. This is also hyaline cartilage. We're in a lot of hyaline cartilage here. Again, hyaline cartilage. Oh, I think I picked I think it was just all hyaline cartilage. That's why. Oh, sorry. Versus fibro and elastic cartilage. Sorry, I didn't realize that it wasn't all the same ones. It was just all. Okay. Elastic cartilage. And so get familiar with these different types of tissues so that you can see that you can identify when you see them on the slide. So you can see epithelium tissue. So epithelium, there's simple squamous epithelium, simple cuboidal epithelium. Then we get back into the connective tissue. There's a bigger group of connective tissue, whether that's connective tissue proper, so that includes loose connective tissue, adipose, areolar, and reticular. Those are all loose connective tissues. Dense irregular, like we see in the dermis of the skin, and dense regular, like we see in tendons and ligaments. Bone, we should all be familiar with bone. Hopefully, if you see bone on a, not that one perhaps, but if you, like you see on the right side of the screen there, you'd identify that as, let's go one more. Oh, this one here is probably the classic structure of the compact bone. So some of those structures that we saw in the previous slides are like the inside of the bones, where it's called trabecular bone, and then there's red blood cells that are, or not only red blood cells, blood cells that are created there or derived from the middles of the bones, the medullary cavity. But we're really going to start to get familiar with kind of the cortical region of the bone, the outer, harder part of the bone, that's really responsible for distribution of weight and taking a lot of stress through those things. Okay. Connective tissue, big group. Muscle tissue, there's only three: skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle tissue. So again, if we hop onto our good old-fashioned digital histology, we can go into tissues, we can go into muscle tissue, and we can take an overview of skeletal muscle tissue. Now, skeletal muscle tissue is the type of muscle tissue that's responsible for movement. The pictures that I'm most interested in is not necessarily like this is like a cross section. So like if you have a bunch of fibers and you cut them, then you'd have like a cable, and that's what you're looking at here. But really, I like to appreciate more the longitudinal sections of skeletal muscle. So again, these are cross sections. The one I want you guys to be more familiar with is probably something that looks a little bit more. Yeah, it's like this. So these are actually the bands. So just as I mentioned, you've got a cross section in some component, but you can also have it like a tube and then take a cut this way. And so that's what you have in terms of skeletal muscle, the muscle fiber. And so you can see the arrows indicating the width from which a fiber runs. There's multiple nuclei here, and there's some real unique features for each type of muscle tissue that you should be aware of. So there was skeletal muscle tissue. Excuse me, let me go back. I meant to click on cardiac muscle tissue is the other one here. So let's jump a couple of slides here. I want to see something here. All right, let me just wow. Okay. Find that this cardiac muscle real fast. There it is. There's cardiac muscle. So hopefully you can see here that this cardiac muscle's got. I can zoom in. Look at that. I forgot I could do that. It's got some intercalated discs. So it's got these features here, these dark bands that connect the tissues together, or these cells together right there. It's kind of more of a branched like cell. So versus the tube that we just saw in skeletal muscle, I'm going to make it a different color. If we saw a cell here, again, a cell's marked by one of these intercalated discs. So then there's probably another disc here. This cell kind of comes here. I can kind of, it comes out this way. So they're a little bit more branched in terms of their shape versus the long cylindrical shape of the skeletal muscle that we saw previously. And they do have these striations. Hopefully you can really appreciate. I'm going to zoom in on a zoom in. Hopefully you could really appreciate the dark and light alternating. Yeah, I think that's all she's got. Nope, hold on. Oh, it's not very clear. But nonetheless, these dark and light alternating bands here that you can see. So like they're like little strips that go up and down there. That is the striations. So the arrangement of the proteins responsible for a muscle contraction lie right there. And so when they're overlapping, it makes a dark band. When they're less overlapping, you get that light band, a structure associated with that. And so let me show you one more time skeletal muscle, because skeletal muscle does have all those striations too. I wish I could just jump to the slide pretty quickly here, but I'm going to kind of have to go through each of them. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. 12. How many slides are there? 20. Let's go to 18. I like that one. Yeah, there it is. 14. Okay. But you can see, hopefully, let me zoom in again, look, because I got that feature. The dark and light alternating bands that you can see as well here in the skeletal muscle tissue. We'll talk much more about those types of proteins that are present there. But that is what we're looking at, dark and light alternating bands called striations, and they're present in skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle only, not in smooth muscle tissue. While I'm at it, I just want to zoom in one more time, and so you can appreciate the multiple nuclei that you may see in a single that you'd see it. So this muscle fiber has one, at least that we can see, two, yeah, let's call that a nuclei, three, four. Like those peripherally located structures there are the nuclei. There's about 4 or 5 right there in the excuse me. Let's see if I can zoom in on these ones. But as we zoom up there again, you can see the same structures there on the top of the screen as they are associated with the muscle fibers around the muscles above it and below it. And then the parts of a neuron. are really what we want to just be familiar with as it starts with. So there's neurons and neuroglia, so the nervous tissue. So you want to, oh, let me go back here one more time. The neuroglia are the helper cells. You don't really need to know specifically about them just yet, but know that there's two types of cells in nervous tissue. Neurons are the more functional cell, and we should be familiar with their structure. That includes the cell body, the dendrites, and the axon. So those what I want you guys to be familiar with, all in chapter 4. Chapter 5 is a little bit more related to a single system. So we're looking at the integumentary system. And so when we're looking at the integumentary system, there's first the functions of the integumentary system that we should be familiar with. Sorry, get my slides together here. Chapter 5. Move that. Bang. Okay. So chapter 5, and I'm going to blurt it out as we go here. So the first and foremost is really just like the layers of the skin. So we can see we're starting on the layers of the skin right now, right? In the major layers, there's the epidermis, the dermis, and then I'll put this in parentheses because the hypodermis, doesn't really count as part of the integument, but, we should know that it's made up of adipose and areolar connective tissue. The epidermis is, right, it is keratinized, stratified, squamous epithelium. And the dermis is made up of connective tissue. Generally, there's two types of connective tissue. That is, sorry, not typing fast as I'm thinking. There is areolar connective tissue at the more superficial region, and there is dense, type it all out, irregular connective tissue in the deeper region, right? So again, we got the layers of the skin, the epidermis, but not only the epidermis itself has 5, sometimes 4, or let me say this, 4, sometimes 5, because thick skin is really only palms of hands and soles of feet. The majority of your skin is thin skin, but layers. And so what are layers of the epidermis? So what are those layers? What cells lie in each of those layers? What layers might you find some specific malignancies, right, that are associated with them? So those are going to be important to be identifying the 5 layers of the dermis. What cells are associated in the layers of those of the epidermis, and that's the big one. The next one is, again, the dermis. So we have already mentioned kind of what the connective tissue that is pervasive throughout it, but again, what types of cells are going to be there, but the vascularity is another component. Oh, there's 2 layers, right, of the dermis, and that's what I wanted to mention first. 2 layers of the dermis: the papillary and reticular. The papillary layer is the more superficial region. It's comprised of areolar connective tissue. The deeper layer is the reticular layer. It is comprised of dense irregular connective tissue. And then deep below that, in between the dermis and the connective tissue below it, you have the hypodermis. And I mean by the connective tissue, the fascia, whatever tendon, ligament, or component might be associated below that adipose tissue or hypodermis. They're also referred to as the subcutaneous layer, right? Hypodermis or subcutaneous layer. There's also some other accessory structures associated with the integumentary system. Those accessory structures include your hair, nails, and glands. So, sweat glands, sebaceous glands, and yeah, sebaceous glands, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands. If I didn't mention already, I should say that you should be able to identify the functions of the skin. And again, which some of it includes some of the things that we're familiar with: protection. But one that I want you to be familiar with is the synthesis of vitamin D, which is responsible for calcium absorption. So it's a co-transporter of calcium. So for good calcium absorption, we require vitamin D, which is synthesized by the integumentary system, or the precursor is synthesized by the integumentary system as a response to the sun. All right, and then the last one here is, oh, not last one. There's a couple. Oh, yeah, there's one more here. Burns and malignancy, or the types of skin cancers that can develop. There we go. Burns and malignancy. So the types of things that can develop as a result of the overgrowth of potential cells. And what layer? That's what I'm thinking. What layer do they occur in, right? Like melanoma occurs in what layer of the skin? Like, what are the cells that are involved with that? And so you will have some pictures associated with the epidermis, the dermis, the layers, and so yeah, get prepared for that. You guys are going to have a great time over these next couple of days here, and I'll have a great time reviewing your guys' scores. Man, I've been on this for about a half hour, so let me wrap it up here with a little bit of encouragement. I think you guys are doing great. I appreciate all the hard work that you guys have been putting in so far this semester. We are nearing the halfway mark already. Shortly after this one here, after this exam here, we're getting into the skeletal system. So everybody loves learning about the bones, right? And so I enjoy this course, and hopefully everyone is enjoying along as well. So again, you guys are doing great. Keep it up, the hard work. I look forward to seeing all your responses here in this upcoming exam. And take care and stay safe.